Welcome to Sideways Look, the podcast where we look where others don't. I am your host, Dr. Paul. Let me give you a short introduction about me. My name is Irma Tessa Paul. Some prefer to call me Tessa, while others know me as Irma. I was born in the beautiful island of Dominica, the Nature Isles of the Caribbean, known for its natural environment habitat. I am a married mother of 3. I have an earned doctoral degree in public policy and administration. What led me to create this podcast is my strong passion for advocating for policies, justice, and programs within our society. The main reason I started this podcast is because Doge happened. Let's get it started and welcome to our first podcast of Sideways Look, looking where others don't. That's what Sideways Look is going to be like. It's not always going to be heavy, it will be honest. This show is about the perspective people often overlook. It's about finding meaning in the margins and voices that aren't usually heard. Today we venture into a contentious question. It's a topic that stirs strong emotions and sharp divides. Some argue that deportation is essential for national security and public safety. Others believe it's a misguided approach that overlooks the complexity of immigrants, specifically when it's only targeting brown and black individuals. And that question is, should all immigrants be deported? Let's explore these arguments. Let's look at the data and the stories behind this debate. Here's the case for this deportation. Proponents of mass deportation often cite public safety concerns. A 2025 Pew Research Center survey found that 97% of Americans support deporting immigrants who have committed violent crimes. However, support wanes when it comes to those with non-violent offenses or strong family ties in the U.S. For instance, only 52% favor deporting those with non-violent criminal records, and just 44% support deporting individuals who arrived in the U.S. within the past 4 years. Advocates argue that removing individuals who have violated the law is crucial for maintaining order and protecting citizens. They point to cases where immigrants have committed serious crimes, suggesting that deportation serves as a deterrent and upholds the rule of law. Now here's the argument against mass deportation. On the other hand, many expert and advocacy groups contend that mass deportation is not only ineffective, but also harmful. Research indicates that immigrants, including undocumented ones, are less likely to commit crimes than natural-born Americans. For example, a 2025 study by Northeastern University found that undocumented immigrants have lower criminal offending rates than natural-born American citizens. Moreover, the American Civil Liberties Union, also known as ACLU, reports that fear of deportation deters immigrants from reporting crimes, thereby undermining public safety. This creates a cycle where communities become less safe because residents are afraid to cooperate with law enforcement. Additionally, deportation can have devastating effects on families and communities. The sudden removal of individuals can lead to economic hardship. It can also lead to emotional trauma and the disruption of social networks. These consequences often ripple out, affecting not just the deported individuals, but also their families and the broader community. Now, who is going to be cutting my lawn? I can't find an American to cut my lawn. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's talk about the middle ground of deportation. Some suggest a more nuanced approach, focusing deportation efforts on individuals who pose a clear and present danger, such as those convicted of violent crimes, while providing pathways to legal status for others. This strategy aims to balance security concerns with compassion and practicality. Not this chaos that we are now witnessing. The chaos I am referring to, it's the recent protests and riots in LA, and now other states and cities have joined in. For example, as of June 6, protests broke out in Los Angeles when ICE raided several city locations to arrest people, and as a result, Los Angeles became the epicenter of a national debate on immigration enforcement. The city witnessed a series of protests in response to intensified ICE raids targeted undocumented immigrants. These demonstrations escalated into clashes between protesters and law enforcement, leading to injuries and over 100 arrests. The federal government's decision to deploy National Guard troops to support immigration enforcement further intensified the situation. Governor Gavin Newsom filed an emergency motion to block the deployment, citing concerns over civil unrest and state rights. These events underscore the complexity of immigration enforcement and the deep divisions within American society on this issue. They raise critical questions about the balance between national security and civil liberties, and the role federal authority in local matters. Let's cut to the core. Is deportation the answer to national security? It's a question that just shouted across podiums. It's been chanted at rallies and whispered in fear behind closed doors. But let's take a sideways look. Because when we talk about national security, we must ask, safety for whom? From what? Let's start with the numbers. A 2020 study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science showed that undocumented immigrants in Texas, one of the only states that tracks this data, had lower federal felony arrest rates than natural-born citizens. Let's just sit on this for a second. That finding wasn't an outlier. Most recent data from 2023 and 2024 reinforce the same trend. Immigrants, undocumented or not, are statistically less likely to commit crimes than those born in the U.S. So if we're going to use public safety as a reason for mass deportation, The math just doesn't add up. You don't have the cards. Folks, it gets deeper. According to the ACLU, communities with large immigration populations often experience a chilling effect when aggressive deportation policies are in place. What are you saying, Doc? Because people become afraid. They're afraid to call the police. They're afraid to report abuse. They're afraid to testify in court, even when they are the victim. You see, that silence makes communities less safe, not more. It allows crime to go unchecked, and it erodes trust between law enforcement and the very people they're supposed to protect. So again, is deportation really the answer to national security? Or is it a reflection of a simple solution applied to a deeper, complex problem? Let's not forget over 10 million undocumented immigrants live in the U.S. Many of them have lived here for decades. They work, raise families, pay taxes, they drive our trucks, stock our shelves, care for our elderly, do our landscape. If deportation is the answer, then the question we're asking might be flawed. Because public safety isn't about fear, it's about stability, it's about trust, and no wall, no raid, no blanket policy can replace that. So, what does work? Targeted enforcement. It is basic policy that help immigrants with pathways to legal status. Proper vetting practices and community policing builds trust instead of tearing it down. These aren't soft policies. They are smart policies supported by data, backed by experience, and aligned with what keeps communities safe. In closing, the question of whether all immigrants should be deported is complex and multifaceted. While public safety is paramount, it's essential to consider the broader implications of such policies. The data suggests that immigrants, on a whole, contribute positively to society and that mass deportation may not achieve the intended outcomes. As we navigate this issue, it's crucial to approach it with, number one, empathy, understanding, and a commitment to justice. After all, the way we treat immigrants reflects our values as a nation. If you liked today's story, share it and leave a review. Tell a friend, tell two, because the more we look sideways, the more we see. I'm Dr. Paul, and this has been Sideways Look, looking where others don't. See you on the next side.